Hey there, guys. I'm Alec Marxen, seed representative here in central Minnesota. The date today is May 19th, and I am here today with our regional agronomist, Mike Blaine. We're standing in a cornfield that was planted April 30th, and we are just north of Bird Island, Minnesota. And we have really seen some good emergence since the last time that we checked in with you guys.
No, absolutely, Alec. Surprisingly enough, the turnaround in temperatures this past week is, really brought along good emergence. Where maybe a week ago we were debating where we were going to be at, and today here holding a true V1 corn plant planted April 30th. Right on track for the GDUs we received today. So.
Yeah, in the field that we're standing in right now, we were just noting we've had some really good even emergence in this field, but even within some of these fields and some other fields really show up more, there's been some pretty uneven emergence in spots to date. Mike, are you seeing this around quite a bit as well? And if so, what are some of the contributing factors to this?
No, we absolutely, and it varies by geography and as much probably the rain that's come here in late April and early May, and uh, tracking not so much in any given area planting date or planting conditions, but by all means residue. And when we look at residue is our friend for many reasons. When it is dry, we can hopefully reduce evapotranspiration, erosion, and so forth. But in the spring, getting the crop up, residue in the seed slot, probably even more so residue over the seed row, can be an impediment when it's cold and dry. And the reason why that becomes is that residue, if it's next to the seed, can both wick moisture away, and in the case of soybean straw, especially, or small grain stubble, it actually acts like a chimney and pipes heat away. And so where we're seeing that, the black soil, and where we had maybe last year very little crop because of the pre-rain, standing water, those areas of the field are up and shining. And then you get into other areas, in some transition areas, different soil types, even where we have more residue, or there was more residue from last year's crop, and just soil conditions were a little bit mellow. We push some of that residue down the seed slot. We look at back for most growers the last 3 or 4 years, and that hasn't been an issue because there's been plenty of springtime moisture, and so that seed started a little bit later. And right now it's starting to sprinkle, which is a good thing, and
It's a very
hopefully,
welcome thing.
yeah, especially for that May 5th, 6th planted crop and later, where it hasn't seen any precip across central or western Minnesota. I think we're in a position where the seed is in good condition, everything we've seen the past couple days, and to get it going if it hasn't started, and or to keep it going.
Yeah, and like our regional agronomy manager, Nate Furley, always likes to talk about is proactive versus reactive agriculture. So if some growers are seeing some of these maybe a little bit reduced stands or things of that nature, would you have any management advice for those guys moving forward in terms of things that they might change in their management decisions? I know we have some PFR studies that touch on
Yeah,
some of these.
yeah, no, that's a good point. And I guess you tell me what the next 3 months are going to be like, and I
Right.
can give you a much better prescription or recommendation. But today, for most growers, again, great planting conditions. They planted at full stand, and we're May 19th. We're for most, all intents and purposes, we're in a good position. So even if you have a reduced stand, the ultimate answer is continue to manage as you would. And your reference to some of the studies that we're doing here at Minnesota at our PFR location at Gibbon and other locations is really looking forward at what we call thin stand management, and whether that thin stand is due to uh, you know reduced germ, bugs, hail, frost. What are those recommendations to manage forward, being proactive? And do we continue with the same nitrogen sulfur management post program? Do we invest in fungicide? Is the fungicide, there's some data from years back, 8, 10 years ago, that demonstrates that if you have a reduced stand, fungicide or disease management in this case is even that much more important if you want to get closer towards your full yield potential. No, those are things that come, but I think most growers look at commodity prices today. They did have good planting conditions. And so, sticking with the plan and going with the plan, even if you may have some of that variable emergence in the field where we're looking at V1 corn, and you got one comes up 2 or 3 days later. Maybe there's going to be a collar and a half behind. That's not our desired plan, but yet I don't know what the rest of the growing season could be. And so yes, there may be a yield reduction plant to plant, but if you want to capture and manage the yield on 90% of plants, even if you have 10% of the plants or less, those 90% to partition out whether you're going to need 5 pounds more nitrogen or less. There's nobody that has that data. So.
Right. And I know last time that we checked in, we had talked about some of the early season cool temps and some of the lack of mineralization that was taking place, and had recommended being on the early side of some of your in-season nutrient needs. Is that still kind of something that you're recommending to guys with their side dress applications, of still trying to be in that early V3-ish time frame?
Yeah, I believe so. And when we first had a conversation, to this level, probably going on 3 weeks ago, nobody anticipated we'd have as much cool and dry as we did have. We did have it, which is, for that stable fall end, such as anhydrous, we're probably in a good position. And so we're not saying that you need more N today, and I think that's the thing out there. We don't know that. I don't think so. But really, what we look at under cool, dry conditions is that we can run into what we call positional unavailability, because we need the moisture for the bugs to what we call mineralize from an unavailable end form to an available form. And so then, we look at proactive and say for the growers that have the opportunity or the ability to put on several applications and whether that was spring urea now and then spray at some nitrogen and sulfur with their herbicide and or do an early side dress. The numbers would say was that given a choice, because we probably don't have as much root growth and as deep because we've been cool and dry, having some level of N available in earlier than maybe later, because maybe it won't be able to get to that nitrogen, whether it was broadcast urea incorporated a little bit deeper and or fall anhydrous. So that would be the thought process.
And to switch gears a little bit, another topic that is really common when I'm meeting with growers right now is the herbicide programs in soybeans, especially in some of these early planted soybeans, or guys that planted soybeans into some very dry conditions and maybe are wondering if the money was well spent on spraying it pre or not, and what that could look like for someone who didn't get a pre down, and what that's going to look like on their post herbicide applications.
Yeah, I think the easy answer or simple answer is that we don't know yet, right? But the dollar spent on the pre is a good investment, because not all weeds germinate at the same time. Whether it's our early season grasses or early season broadleafs, or we look into water hemp, which has maybe a mid to later germination period. And so that pre, most of the multiple site of action pre's, we're using them for that reason. So maybe for giant ragweed early, we're having the right product there to keep that weed from germinating and or growing, but then having some of the longer residual ones out there. So I don't know today. We're seeing some foxtail come in both corn and soybean fields, and some of our early season broadleaves like our giant ragweed and common lamb's quarter. Some fields, I don't know every field. Some fields I know got a pre, and maybe it's not perfect. So then the final part of that is that even though a grower used a pre, even though there's been fair high confidence in going by the calendar, I think we have to this year take that one off and say maybe it's not so much the calendar, but I really need to be watching my fields, because that early first pass post, and whether that first pass post was just glyphosate and group 15 such as a warrant or metolachlor dual to extend your residual, it might be, and you're planning that 25 days after emergence. Maybe this year it needs to be 15 or 18 because your strength of your pre and your activity of your pre is reduced. And so that is, hopefully the positive recommendation is that I think you'll find very few people that are going to be disappointed or 100% disappointed they used a pre. It's a dollar investment, but yet knowing that they used a pre and it helped them some, hopefully still gives them a little bit more flexibility on their first pass post.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Anything else? It's starting to sprinkle and across most of the area. The prospects for rain, maybe a half to or more inch over the next couple of days, will be pretty welcome.
I think that will be very welcome. Well, thank you, Mike.
You're welcome, Alec. Have a good day.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in.